So the third and final part picks up at about 5 p.m. The French have pulled back away from Hassenhausen, and one of the first Prussian moves to maintain pressure on the French is to get the Prince of Orange to begin to move around the sort of the southwestern flank of that French line. A series of assaults pushes the far western flank of that French line in a little bit, and then some of the Prince of Orange's troops begin to push through the woods to the south and threaten to outflank that French position. In the centre, the reserve corps maintain pressure on the French very weak centre. Von Arnhem's group moves through Hassenhausen and begins to just push back the French in the centre, and the Guards move up as well, just north of the French artillery, and they also place themselves in a position to threaten the French centre. Those attacks by the reserve corps in the centre do the most damage. They not only push the French back, but they begin to just cause so many routs among French units. And you can see in the bottom of this image here a number of French battalions in plus grand disorder. The Guards were fairly successful in their attacks in the centre, just to the direct south of Hassenhausen. You can see them under those disorder markers there. They were very successful in pushing the French back. And again, that is a very, very thinly held French line with only 1 to 2 incrementals among most of those French units in the centre. And around this point, midway through about 5:30 or so, the French are again forced to pull back their line. They pull back away from the Prince of Orange down this very southwest. They try to pull back in the centre a little more, but you can see things are really starting to fall apart for the French. Disorder in the centre of their line, very thinly held throughout. And it's about 5:40 when Wortensleben and Schmettau's men are brought back into action on the eastern side, the northeastern top right side of the French position. They both again hit the French line, and Wortensleben in particular causes a lot of damage on the eastern side of that French line, the eastern side of the French flank. He pokes some very big holes in the French line, sends a number of units routing, and by this stage the French just don't have the companies or the battalions behind the line to fill those gaps. Prussian cavalry is sent in to try and exploit those positions, and it really again opens up that position on the right side of the French right flank even wider. With their right eastern flank virtually destroyed, the Davout tries to really pull back the French to a new position right way up on the heights in the southeast, but there's not much he can do. That final attack by Wortensleben, who was pretty quiet for most of the battle, really just broke the French back. They just don't have enough units in reserve or anywhere in that area to really fill the hole. Prussian cavalry quickly exploited, avoiding the French light cavalry by pushing through some of those holes, which really jeopardised the whole French position. And so as the French pull back, the reserve division moves up in the west, and you can see Wortensleben in the northeast just maintaining the pressure on the French. But by this stage it's pretty clear that the French have been utterly annihilated. Davout, as I said earlier, failed to outmaneuver the Prussians. The battle quickly bogged down into sort of a battle of attrition, and in those circumstances the larger army simply won. You can look at French losses among that corps, and there are very few surviving battalions on the field. This shows all the French losses. You contrast this with the Prussian losses, where the Prussians have lost a few small units, but not much really compared to the French. So ultimately, French utterly destroyed, Prussians remaining largely intact. Davout will have to pull back, and the Duke of Brunswick, the King and Queen, will be free to move northeast into Prussia and avoid Napoleon in the south.